Okay. All right, week 3, we did Find Discipline with Richie Brockle. And the first question for the week is, what are you doing to make the language of accounting easier for you to understand? And I guess I'll start since I'm already talking. But in order to kind of help me understand accounting better, I'm taking really detailed notes on OneNote. I actually call it my brain. I have the same thing for like work and pretty much everything I do. I use a OneNote system and it just holds all the important information I need. And I like categorize each section and I label everything really clearly. And that way I can like locate all the concepts and definitions or examples whenever I need them. And that way, when we're learning new ideas, I'm not getting confused or falling behind because I have so many resources and it just helps me keep up with what I'm learning. And then the other thing that's nice is I can toggle between classes. So like if I'm stuck on something in this class, might be able to go to like healthcare operations and finance and be like, oh, there's an example here that was like the same thing. And so that way I can get like additional clarification in case it's not in the textbook. And so far it's been working. So we'll see how it goes as the concepts get more complex. But so far so good.
That beats the heck out of my winging it.
What do you use Luminet?
No, no, winging it. Just kind of,
Oh, I couldn't hear. I was like, Lumi, I was like, I've never heard of that
no,
system.
no, 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 no. Nothing that fancy. Uh, no, I've just been going through the homework, just hearing it over and over again. Nothing like as detailed as you're doing by any means.
Mhm.
I was gonna say I'm a visual person, so I like to, kind of set things up in a more visual manner. So I like to kind of print stuff off, and
Mhm.
um, I basically have one wall of my office that I use as a post-it board. Um, but other than that, that's kind of my organizational strategy. But I think it's just been, trying to do a little more research for me on I would say the hardest thing that I've found is just, why it's like done a certain way. And so just kind of trying to understand like the rationale behind it. Um, because I would say sometimes like or at least last week for me, it's like a lot of the horizontal stuff made sense, but at the same time, it's like why, does it show up in these columns and like not in the income
Oh,
statement?
sure.
You think,
Yeah.
right? It should be the income statement. And so like trying to understand, why it appears where it is has been like the hardest part that I've been trying to like, you know, visually keep track of with just a smattering of post-it notes.
Sounds like you had the same problem Richie Brockle had when he was working
Yeah.
for the larger corporation. Because he was saying that he was getting like, he's like, why do we do it this way? I don't understand it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel like one day, because I have like really bad ADHD, it's really hard for me sometimes to remember things. And I just know that it's going to be like 5 years from now, and someone's going to ask me a question at whatever business job maybe I get. And I'm going to have to be like, I don't know, but then I'll look at my OneNote and just like control F it and be like, oh, this is what we're talking about today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Though one day if the
I do
cloud ever
that.
dies, then all my information would die too. So, pros and cons, but
That's not good.
yeah.
Uh, I still do that with engineering. We'll go talk about a subject I learned in school, but at this point, being 7 or 8 years out of it, I don't have any recollection, and I'm going back and pulling textbooks, googling it, and I'm like, oh right, this is starting to ring some bells.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yep.
it'll be the same way with this stuff down the road.
Hmm. Yeah.
Dust it off and
Yeah. And it's always going to be the thing that like you think, oh, I'm never going to use this again. I remember in my undergrad, we did a lot of like I did a lot of like biology and chemistry, and it was like a lot of statistics. And I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to do this again. And that's like all I did with cancer research. It was like so many biostatistics and like biochemistry, and that was just like my day to day. And I just remember being like, I guess I signed up. I guess I paid money to learn this at some point. I
Yeah.
did not think this is what my life was going to be, but
Funny how that happens.
we'll see what the 10-year outlook is for us with accounting. All
Yep.
right. So the next question is, what was the most important thing in the podcast? Um,
I would say if you're in the NFL, don't get injured.
Yeah. I
Uh,
was gonna say, what was the one quote? That gambling is probably not the wisest retirement strategy.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
he said that the
I
guy,
think we
like
get
that was one of my things where it's like he actually said though, he's like he was a pretty convincing argument, and I'm like, I want to know more about that. Like
Yeah.
I want to know what he said where I'm like, should I be worried? Like what have I been doing? What do I need to do with my 401k? Mhm.
uh,
I kind of got the budgeting matters,
oh, sure.
Yeah.
but don't make, well, I had a couple things. Like one was like if you're going to be a CPA, like I think the big takeaway if you're going to be a CPA is that you need to work for somebody else before you work for yourself because they were saying that like it helps you learn the important processes, develop your skills, and then like build experience analyzing returns and financial statements and balance sheets. And then it kind of shows that accounting isn't just about taxes. It's like um it's in a lot of different like genres of work, like operations
Hmm.
and whatnot. And then also budgeting matters, but don't make it too complex. So like that was my, if you're not a CPA, I also kind of felt like, and that was also kind of like tricky too, where it's like they're like keep it simple. Like don't overplan or try too hard or find clever strategies to avoid paying extra taxes or less taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like
Sometimes it's worth paying for parking.
yes,
Sometimes
I
it's
was
worth
about to
paying for
say that.
parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I mean I totally agree. It was kind of like I feel like it was the message of, just be aware of kind of what's going on, that find something that works for you and stick to it.
Yeah.
Um, because just like an unawareness just leads to way more complications and questions and
Yeah.
what happened at the end of the day. So, but
Yeah. It was, yeah. They're like, go to Winco and not Albertsons.
Unless you're sponsored by Albertsons.
Unless you're
I
sponsored
did
by
love how they back
Albertsons.
ended that back into the podcast.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, yeah. And then
that was
take
great.
advantage of your 401k company match, especially if you're in the NFL.
Yeah, no kidding. Didn't
Yeah,
they say they get for every dollar they put in, the company matches $2?
Yeah.
that's what I remembered. Yeah.
Pretty
God,
cool.
that's insane.
Just a
Yeah.
200% match.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
you think like when you think like in the NFL though, and like a 35-year-old is considered old and you have to
sure,
retire, you're
sure.
retiring like in your 30s, unless you're
Oh,
like Tom Brady. You're gonna like that's a lot of time to be retired,
Yeah, I mean,
right.
especially if
they
you get
said
injured or you get your smussions. You
I
can't.
was trying to remember how long he said he had played, but I think like the average NFL career is like it's like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not a lot.
yeah. I'd be
Quick.
maxing that out too.
So,
Yeah, no kidding. If you knew smart or knew enough to do it, right?
Yeah, definitely. And he was saying that a lot of people weren't doing it, and that to me was just like mind-boggling, especially if you're making that much money in a year. Like you have the money, the ability to put aside money and still live. But
yeah. Yeah.
but I'm not an NFL player, so and maybe the
Mm.
concussions contribute to the lack of foresight.
It's also like that much money at what, 21, 22 is
Right.
I feel like it's kind of like a weird way to I don't say like go through life of like your peak earnings are like in your early 20s and then it just like tails off
That's
after
wild.
that. You know, for everybody else, it generally does the opposite.
Yeah.
Uh, but
And that was something that I also thought was interesting in the podcast because, well, there's a few things that I thought were interesting, but one of them was like the using scholarship money wisely, um, where he was saying that like once upon a time, like he got $600 a month in college for scholarship money, but now kids these days are getting so much more than $600. And so like he was saying that gives more opportunities to save and plan ahead. And that way they wouldn't have to like jump straight into a job. They could take their time and do whatever. But like going back to what you said, it's like I know when I was in college, when I was 19, I
what
was
did I do?
thinking about like I need to save and
Did I do something?
make sure that I don't spend all this money and I need to think about retirement. So,
Kelly, you still there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you not hear Ashley?
oh, he's he's
Yeah,
still
something funky's going on.
he's still
Yeah, I can. Well, I could hear him say a couple things.
okay. Oh, there you
Oh,
go. You're moving again.
Oh,
You're back.
it just dropped out for me for like 60 seconds. I don't know if it was anybody else.
no, no, it's just you.
Okay. Sorry. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh no, that's cool.
No, no. That's kind of it. I was just like it's just interesting because like to me I wasn't thinking about that when I was 19. Just saying.
Right.
Um,
That I do think that's something that kind of you grow into, and you realize that one of these days you're actually gonna want to retire. And at 19, you just have no concept, right? Like a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow when you're 19, and you just don't know any better.
Especially if you're like, I'm gonna be a famous NFL player one day and make
Right.
millions and trillions and billions of monies. Why
Right.
don't you just
What?
save right
Why
now?
would you need to put any money into your 401k if you're going to be a billionaire, right?
Yeah, why do I need to put money in a high yield savings account to buy a house one day?
Yeah.
I'll just make a big gajillions.
And
Be famous.
then more than likely it doesn't happen.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
Mhm. I also thought one thing I never really thought about was like earning trust through accounting too, where he said the CPA license wasn't just about the qualification necessarily. Like it's not just a qualification, it was like a symbol of trust because it says that you
Yeah.
have the knowledge and skills to handle like some serious responsibilities and it like raises the bar for your work and your reputation. And that was just interesting because I don't know, I guess in my head, like I just think of like the accountants in my family and they're kind of like I don't know. They just, they do taxes. But I guess they're right. You're right. Like they like for if you're gonna be in like a finance or like an operations or um really any kind of business, like it would be really awesome to have somebody who is good with money or like can understand the financial side of operations.
100%. And I mean, how do you run any operations if you don't have somebody like that, right?
Yeah. But people do it all the time. So many businesses. Like I know my sister,
uh,
like, she's running her own business right now. She's a esthetician, and so she started her own spa, and she ended up with a
mm,
business coach because she started and she's like, it's gonna be great. And then she's like, I don't have any finance or marketing or business background. I'm just really good at giving facials and like micro needling. So I mean, I think that happens a lot with people when they start a business. They're like over their heads when it comes to the books.
yep.
yeah.
To your point too, I maybe I just live under a rock, but I never really even thought like that there was that idea that accountants have that level of trust, or that a CPA would get you more trust. Like they were talking about that, and I've never even really thought about it before. Like you could tell me you're having your CPA, I wouldn't think really much else about you other than what I already know, right?
I did just watch The Accountant though, the movie, and he
Um,
seemed very trustworthy and not
all
trustworthy at the same time. So,
right, fair enough, fair enough. Um,
what was something you found confusing in this podcast? I think one of the things that I thought was it was kind of like the budget until it gets too complicated. Um, that's like I feel like that's like a great piece of advice, but it's also kind of confusing because like where do you draw the line? Like what does too complicated actually mean? And if you're going to be telling people like he's like a public speaker and like goes to people and like talks to them about like budgeting and then but it doesn't really seem like he has a good idea of like it wasn't very clear as to like where the draw the line, like at what point is the inconvenience too much of an inconvenience? Um,
Sure.
like when is
Yeah.
it too stressful? Um, like I was just thinking about that in my own life, like where can I budget and at what point is it just inconvenient or do I just really like living with it? I don't know. Just it's confusing
Right.
on my own.
Yeah.
If Albertsons is just down the street, then do I really want to drive to Winco?
The lines to get out the door at Winco. I mean, you're talking like sometimes it's like a 30-minute stand in line to check out. And if you got a toddler, it's like you got to really hope you're saving some money in
Yeah,
order to stand in
Well,
that line.
exactly.
uh, or at least another person to chase them down while you're standing there.
Mm. Yeah, it's like, do I need babysitting money just so I can go to Winco to save the money? Like things like that.
Yeah.
Like where?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, sorry, I was kind of cutting in and out. I think my internet connection is a little funky this evening. But I guess it wasn't super confusing. Um, but it kind of was. I'm still confused in general, I would say. Um, right, how or why like more organizations don't do some sort of like finance or accounting or like budgeting kind of economics just in general for like students or employees or like high schoolers, right? That I feel like a common theme has kind of been, right, understanding, right, where your money is going or like understanding where the business money is going and like how it's categorized and right to your point earlier that like a lot of people right jump into a small business or their personal finances and just do it versus kind of having some other like structured or helpful things in there. It's usually like after something bad happens or when you're struggling, right, that stuff kind of comes in that like I'm just still, it's still kind of funny or confusing to me that like more stuff isn't like put in on the front end to try and like put people on a better foundation. That it's like I think they talked a little bit about it in the like the session he presented to the team of right helping them out with some of that stuff, but it's just like that regular proactive stuff really seems to be not around in a lot of organizations.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. In college, you have to like really seek it out. You have to be like in the business classes, or I feel
no,
like
I mean, yeah,
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 high school would be good. I know I took like a business, like a little businessy class when I was in high school. They had just started offering that, but it kind of seems like that needs to be like more like a health or PE class where you kind of have to like have a general understanding of how to budget and manage money before you leave the high school. Understand what a 401(k) is, like why you should want to retire.
yeah.
That you might actually retire at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be incredibly valuable.
Well, if anyone has anything else, I think we have covered all the questions.
I don't I don't have anything on my end.
I don't think I do either.
I'm going to stop the